So right now we are in Jackson, Mississippi, capital of the great state of Mississippi, the last state in the Union, regrettably in the Union, and some of the people here to still have the Confederate battle flag in the state flag. The mascot of the main university, University of Mississippi, is Colonel Reb. Well, actually they retired Colonel Reb a few years ago, but it's still the Rebels. Sitting next to me is Sachi, like the wine, who I met in New Orleans, and we traveled up here to Jackson together. Sorry if I sneeze or do anything gross during this video. I guess I'm a little bit allergic to all this fine southern hospitality. So behind us, if you can see, is the largest scale model, not in the United States, but in the entire world, built during World War II by German and Italian POWs. It models the entirety of the Mississippi River Delta so that they could put water into it and see which areas would flood. So you, despite not looking like it, are from Kenya.
That's right.
So tell us about that. How did your family come to Kenya?
So my grandparents are from Gujarat, which is in the west of India, and
what famous Indians have come from Gujarat?
Modi, the Prime Minister. Modi is Gujarati, the current Prime Minister. So they
wasn't Gandhi also Gujarati? I'm gonna say he was.
I don't think he was.
Well,
I'm pretty sure he wasn't.
He was. All right, so continue. How did your family come to Kenya?
So they came by boat. My grandparents came by boat because they lived in a little farm and there wasn't much opportunity. So they sailed across the Indian Ocean to try find a better life. And yeah, my parents are born in Kenya, and so was I. I'm second generation.
So why did your grandfather pick Kenya of all the countries in the world?
I mean, geographically it made sense by boat to sail across the Indian Ocean. I think there was other people from the same state that had already gone there, so kind of knew that it was a good place to try to start a business or something.
And what did your grandfather and then parents do when they arrived in Kenya, the land of opportunity?
So my grandfather started buying and selling things just to get by and traveling around the country. And then he started up a hardware shop in the capital city. And then they started a textile factory making clothes. And then when my father was older, they started a aluminium cookware factory where they make pots and pans.
An what?
Aluminium.
And an aluminum factory.
That's right,
making
aluminium.
Pots and pans. Yes. Yeah. And what city in Kenya?
Nairobi, the capital.
And tell us about Nairobi.
Nairobi is a beautiful city. It has a national park in the city. It's the only country in the world that has that. There's a lot of poverty. About more than half the population lives in a slum. And it's very green. It's got a lot of vegetation. It's called the Green City under the sun. So there's lots of animals and wildlife. It's a very interesting place. It's quite developed compared to what a lot of people think of Africa. It's quite a developed city.
So you're not riding an elephant to school?
Sometimes. When the giraffe is busy,
yes.
I have to ride the elephant into school.
How many people live in Nairobi?
Don't know. Numbers are not my thing. I could guess. We'll
I'm gonna guess 3.5 million.
You're wrong.
You can fact check me.
It's like at least 40 million, probably.
40 million people in one city. So it's the biggest city on earth. It's between 3.5 and 40 million. It's pretty big. So tell us about growing up in the Green City under the sun. What did your house look like? What was your neighborhood like? What was your school like? What were your friends like?
So I lived in a gated compound because a lot of people live in areas like that because of the security issues. So there was an electric fence and barbed wire, and I lived in a compound with 3 houses, which was all my cousins. So we all lived next door to each other and grew up together, which was really nice, and my grandparents. And we had some dogs, some German Shepherds as well. And my school was about an hour away in kind of the suburbs, very green. Sometimes monkeys and warthogs came into our school, wandered around, stole our food. Sometimes you could see giraffes on the way to school. and yeah, that was growing up in Nairobi. It was really nice. I was in a private school, so I think my experience is very different to most of the other Kenyans.
Who was at your school? What type of people?
So it was pretty diverse. Nairobi's quite multicultural in general, so it was a diversity of people. People who there's a UN headquarters, so there was some people whose parents were in the UN, and just people whose parents were business people in Kenya. Quite a big mix.
And what did you do for fun growing up?
So, my family, my dad's into golf, so he got me and my brother into playing some golf now and then. We were outside most of the time, just messing around, playing sport. We did
Sports.
pretty much sports. Okay.
Sorry, I mean, I just want to, help correct your English to make it proper and
To make it American?
to make it American
Yeah.
and not British.
Okay.
Yeah.
We won't go there.
Bit of history of Kenya. When did it become independent from the United Kingdom?
1964.
And it was a colony before then?
That's correct. A colony of the UK, of Britain.
What was it called before it became independent? Was it still called Kenya?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was still called Kenya.
I see. So you mentioned the golf course. Tell us about this golf course.
It's wonderful. So the one you're thinking about isn't the one that I played at all the time.
Well, tell us about the fun golf course.
It's not fun. There's a whole bunch of golf courses in Kenya. It's quite a big sport. But as I said a bit before, over half the population lives in a slum. So there's a golf course that is right next to a slum. And from one of the tee boxes, you can actually see into it. It's a big problem in Kenya. There's a lot of developed and underdeveloped areas just contrasting right next to each other, and a lot of infrastructure issues because of that, and flooding. And
So if you were tasked with making Kenya great again, what would you go about doing?
it's a tough one. I think
Other than taking back the mountain that was stolen by
mountain.
Tanzania.
so. The Queen gave when we were a colony, she gave Mount Kilimanjaro to Tanzania. It used to be a Kenyan mountain because it was the prince's birthday, and it was the prince that owned Tanzania. So we lost that mountain. It's not cool. We'd take that back probably.
But after taking the mountain back, what would you do?
I think it's such a, they call it a wicked problem, like in engineering. It's just so many things. It's really tough. Starting maybe to try, I really don't know a lot of politics, so I don't want to say something stupid. But improving the infrastructure, I think, is a good first step. Just making the roads better, less flooding, improving the underdeveloped areas so that people who live in slums have a better.
But if
better
not
way
for
to
the
live.
potholes, where would people go to swim?
That's true. That's tough.
So
one.
you have seen cars inside of potholes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Potholes are so large when
I
it
mean,
floods.
not like the whole car, but like
half the car.
part of it. Yeah, a bunch of it just disappears under the water.
And how about corruption in Kenya? Is that an issue?
It's a really big issue. Yep, it's pretty bad.
Have you ever had to pay a bribe?
I have had to pay a bribe. When traffic police kind of just do what they want, they'll stop you for anything and everything. They'll just make up rules sometimes, or there's just ridiculous rules like a zebra crossing on a highway. So we got stopped. Me and my mom got stopped. And they stop you because they know that it's a bad time of the day. You have stuff to do, so they just want you to pay them because they know you don't want to sit in at the police station for a day. So we had to pay them some money.
What would you say the average bribe for a traffic cop is?
I mean, they know they kind of know how much you're going to be able to pay, and it depends what your offense is. I'd say anything from like $5 if you were really good at talking your way out of it, to could go if you had caused a minor accident or something. It could be up to like $100-$200. It just depends on what it was. It really depends.
So how good of a talker are you? What were the bribes that you would pay?
We're not too good, me and my mom. We tried, but I mean, my grandpa was really good at talking, but me and my mom.
He'd be the $5 bribe.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
what
or
would-
even
what
the
would-
zero. He just
He'd be
he just
the-
drive off and be like, "Sorry, I haven't got anything."
Uh-huh.
Me and my mom was more like $40 maybe,
Ah.
$40.
But
a day.
you're young. You're still learning.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
trying to pick it up. I mean, it's not ideal. You don't want to be doing it, and that's not something I'm happy about. But
And how did you get your driver's license in Kenya?
so, we all got into the back of a truck and drove onto this giant field, stood around in a circle. It's a whole bunch of us, and this guy got his car and got us to sit in it and drive from one person to the next, maybe about 5 meters. Sometimes he wouldn't get us to drive; he'd just get us to put the car in gear.
Mm-hmm.
And he'd be like, "Okay, cool, you're done." So it was very haphazard, a bit of a mess. And then there was also a like a board with little toy cars, and
Yeah.
he'd say, "Get from here to here and follow the traffic rules." And you'd have to go around the roundabout in the right lane and show that you knew what you were doing. And it was a bit of a joke, but
And it's doubly hard driving in Kenya because you're driving on the wrong side of the road.
the right side. We
Yes.
drive on the right side of the road.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
So you have your undergraduate degree. What is it in?
Civil and environmental engineering, which is probably why the answers to your questions are very engineering-y. I apologize. I'm sure a lot of my friends, when you ask, or people in Kenya, you ask what could they do to make Kenya great again, there's probably a lot better answers than what I answered, so I apologize for that.
Yeah, maybe they wouldn't just say build better bridges with
I didn't
more.
say bridges, but yeah. I mean, I know there's a lot more that needs to be done apart from what I said.
And
That's what
tell me the engineering pickup line you told me before.
So this is by some friends of mine.
Mm-hmm. Original work.
Original work. So when you're learning about structures and loads, you learn about stresses and strains. So that's part of the. I just have to give you some backstory so it makes sense, you know. And then if you know what a crane is, and if you know there's this thing at the top that like pulls the weight, and it's called a jib. So this is it. Don't judge me. I have some better pickup lines. I'm not engineering. This is an engineering one. You're the stress to my strain, and you're the jib to my crane.
Mm-hmm. So, if any of you out there ever find yourself smitten by a cute engineering girl, there you go, free tip.
Don't say Apple.
So, where did you go to get your undergraduate degree?
I was in Nottingham in the UK. That's where Robin Hood comes from. If you've heard about him.
Mm-hmm.
It's a bit Nottingham.
Have they done anything to commemorate Nottingham's most famous resident?
Yeah, there's a little statue of Robin Hood.
Mm. How was it studying in the UK?
It was great. I loved it. It was a lot of fun. Very different, but
What do you think of the people there?
I really like them. They're kind of reserved at first compared to Kenya, I think. Very, yeah.
What do you
Not
not
as
like about
outgoing.
British people?
Sometimes the reserved thing can get to you. Sometimes in London on the tube, everyone's just kind of in their own little zone.
Mhm.
So that can get. It didn't really bother me too much, but I can see how that could
Mm-hmm. So they need to go visit Kenya to get a little bit more warm.
maybe.
And the weather in Nairobi is perfect, right?
Yeah,
Would you
pretty
say?
perfect.
Pretty perfect.
Pretty great.
Right now we are sitting in, I don't know if you can see, we are sitting in 95 degrees and high humidity. So I definitely wish I was in the green city under the sun right now. And what are you doing? What brought you to the United States? What brought you to the greatest country on earth?
I am doing my master's in Pittsburgh. I'm studying civil and environmental engineering.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I'm just here for a little break before I start a summer internship.
And where is that summer internship going to be?
San Francisco.
Oh, very nice. Let's see. Let's go back to Kenya,
Okay,
because Kenya is just a fascinating place.
cool.
What is it that is on your Kenyan passport?
So on the pages we have different animals.
Mm-hmm.
We have pictures of different animals, which is cool. I know what you're getting at though.
What is on the front of
What's
the
on the
Kenyan
front?
passport?
So we have the coat of arms,
Mm-hmm.
and we have a little word. It's Harambe. So Harambe is a Swahili word.
Rest in peace. Rest in peace.
Before it was this whole gorilla meme thing, like it was a Swahili word. It's always been one. It means to pull together. So that's what's on the front of my passport.
So going through famous Kenyan Americans, Probably the most famous Kenyan American, of course, would be our former president, Mr. Barack Obama. What
Right.
do you remember? What village she was born in Kenya?
I don't.
I saw a news report where they were at the village that he was supposedly born in, during the 2008 election, like live, and they
Yeah.
were having a viewing party,
Oh.
and
Okay.
they were like celebrating when he won.
Yeah,
They were
yeah.
all happy.
Everyone loved it.
Yeah.
We got a public holiday. We got a day
Really?
off. Everyone got a day off work when Obama got elected. I don't know why. Like,
Is that true?
that's 100% true.
You're not.
They love public holidays. It's just an
Wow.
excuse to not do any work. But like, it was just pretty much unnecessary.
Oh yikes! Wow, maybe he actually is from Kenya. They had an
No,
entire
he's
public
definitely
holiday.
from Kenya.
Yeah, he will. Yeah, you heard it here. So, the most famous Kenyan American is, of course, Mr. Obama. But the second most famous Kenyan American would be Harambe. Who would the third most famous Kenyan be? Who would
Kenyan
people know?
American.
Not Kenyan American, just Kenyan in general.
There's some marathon runners
Mhm.
people might know of. There's Wangari Maathai, who was like an environmentalist. Jomo Kenyatta, like the first president, freedom fighter.
hmm Tell us about the people who live in Kenya. Tell us about the big tribes and what they're famous for.
So there's many tribes, many languages. Probably the biggest ones that I would know of are the Kikuyu, Luo, Kamba, Kalenjin, and Luya tribes. But there's many, many more as well.
And the Maasai
And the Maasai of
are
course.
also in
Yeah.
Kenya. They're very famous of the jumpers,
Mhm.
and they wear colorful clothing.
That's right. And
Yeah.
jewelry.
And what is the rite of passage for a Maasai man?
So I don't think this is done very much anymore. But before, in the past, a young boy to become a man would have to kill a lion. That was the tradition back in the day.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's incredible. What do you think the rite of passage for like a young American man is?
I think it's like shotgunning a beer or something.
Yeah. So Americans are shotgunning beers, and Kenyans, they're killing lions.
We used to, not anymore.
Not anymore?
No.
Wow, maybe a few still.
Maybe here and there.
Yeah. So, if you want to be a true man, don't shotgun that beer, buy a plane ticket, fly to the second greatest country on earth,
Don't
and kill a
kill a
lion.
lion.
Well, actually, one of some people have gone, not to Kenya, I believe, but they were in Africa and they killed a lion. That would be our new president's, Mr. Trump's two sons, went to Africa. This is a true story. Went to Africa and trophy killed not just a lion, but a lion. I've seen the pictures of them with like a rhino, I think. So yeah, does Kenya do trophy hunting, or is that more other like Southern African countries?
If it happens, it's illegal.
Mm-hmm.
It's not done openly and like it's not publicized. So.
But Kenya did have the world's largest simultaneous crushing of ivory.
Burning. They
Burned it.
They burned a lot of ivory.
How much was that ivory valued on the black market?
It was a lot of money. I can't remember.
I think I read it was like $100 million plus.
Probably.
value.
It was the biggest ever.
But corruption is quite a problem in. Would you like to tell that story?
I'm good.
Okay, all right. So, what other things are interesting about Kenya? Tell us about the Kenyan mentality. What are great things about Kenyan people and the people of Nairobi, and what are some bad things about the people of Nairobi?
Okay. Some great things I'd say would be the community spirit and sense of pride. The food is amazing. The Kenyan food is really good. People just willing to help each other out, and communities being very closely knit, I think. The bad things, probably, I would say, would be the tribalism, which can sometimes cause rifts, and like there was a bad violence after an election a few years ago, so that's something that we need to work through. And corruption is definitely not great.
So, how are Kenya's relationship with its friendly neighbor to the sometimes not so friendly neighbor to the north, Somalia?
Yeah, there's some issues there. We have a really big refugee camp in the north of Kenya called Dadaab. I think it's the biggest in the world, and that's a lot of Somali refugees that have come down because there's a terrorist group called Al Shabaab in Somalia,
Mhm.
which has caused a few problems in Kenya. Generally, I mean, there's a lot of Somali Kenyans, and I think generally, I don't know most, but like many Kenyans understand that the extremists are not a few, but
Mhm.
yeah, there are some issues
Mhm.
with Al Shabaab.
So, what do you think of the United States? You've been here for a year.
Mhm.
Now you're here in the deep south,
Yeah.
the best part of the United States. Um, and what are your impressions of the United States and the American people?
I really like the people. I think they're very friendly and welcoming, which is really nice.
Mhm.
Like boisterous and loud, but it's nice because you kind of just you feel.
Better than British people, it's fair to
I'm not
say.
gonna say better, but you know.
I'm gonna say better than
Okay,
British people.
you can say that. Yeah, it's a cool place to live. I think it can be at times people can be a bit shut off from the rest of the world.
Ignorant.
Sometimes, yeah, a bit kind of self-involved and just think America's the whole world.
I once read a National Geographic study that said, I believe, a quarter of Americans could not locate the United States on a world map.
I would believe that. Yeah, yeah.
So how's the lifestyle in Pittsburgh? How are the people?
Pittsburgh's a cool city. People are nice. It was weird to me coming from the UK to Pittsburgh, where on the street people will speak to you. I mean, to be fair, I lived further south in the UK, and the further north you go, the friendlier people are. But in Pittsburgh, people are just very, very nice and speak to you like complete stranger. Will start a conversation with you in the street. Yeah, there's a lot of cool stuff to do. Some funky neighborhoods. It's up and coming in the tech world, so it's kind of growing, and I like it. It's a cool city to study in.
And if you hail an Uber,
Mm-hmm.
what will come pick you up?
Sometimes, if you're lucky, I've had it one time, you get a self-drive Uber. It drives itself. There's a person there to make sure it's not like 100% autonomous, but it drives itself. They tell you when it's driving itself.
Mm-hmm.
It has a little thing that spins on the roof that like sees where you are.
Mm-hmm. So Pittsburgh, people think the future is in San Francisco.
No.
It's in Pittsburgh.
It's in Pittsburgh.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So what are your impressions of the Deep South? You've seen Mississippi, you've seen Louisiana, where we met.
Mm-hmm. It's so different to the east or the west coast. From what I've seen, it's like very calm. People seem just a lot slower paced. We went to a plantation, which was very interesting, a little plantation museum where they talked about slaves, and I think it's just
And how well they were treated.
and how well they were treated, how happy they were.
They got a Christmas ham every year.
They got a little bit of money once in a while. So
Once a year.
once a year.
Only once a year.
Okay.
Mhm.
So I think it's a different way of seeing things. It's a different viewpoints, and I'm learning a lot just about how people think. It's strange seeing the Confederate flag as the state. Well, I guess technically it's not the Confederate flag, but whatever, part of it. So.
And it's kind of surreal because we were at the state capitol and the Confederate flag is flying right up there next to the American flag, but yet the city of Jackson, the vast majority of the residents here are black. So it's quite a surreal feeling being out here.
Mm-hmm.
It's an interesting place. In some ways, it's a region of the United States that seems a little bit stuck in time. And not necessarily in a bad way. I think there's a lot of beauty out here. People seem to be living good lives. And what did you think of New Orleans, the Crescent City?
I like New Orleans. I think it was cool. The vibe, it was like quite upbeat in some places, but it was also kind of strange because you just walk a few streets away and it's a completely different atmosphere. Kind of sad sometimes because there's just abandoned areas and a lot of like desolate places, but then the French Quarter is so funky and like lively. So it's very contrasting. I do like it. I do like it as a city to visit. I'm not sure what its future holds though. Just kind of worrying.
The American Venice,
Yeah.
unfortunately. So to end the video, why don't you tell us a little bit about Indian culture? Why don't you tell us some fun stories about your grandma and how she sees the world?
Grandma. What did I tell you about?
What does she do if you haven't visited her in a while?
Oh, my grandma gets upset when we haven't gone to see. So we live in the compound, but she doesn't like it when we. Well, of course, when we haven't visited her in a few days if we've been home. So as you go to greet her, she'll hold your hands so you can't move them, and then she'll slap you. No matter how old you are, you can be a really good adult. You get a slap from my grandma if you haven't visited her in a while.
Does she slap you, or is it just your brother?
I mean, sometimes me too. Mostly my brother, but also me.
When was the last time you got slapped?
When I was home last year.
And how old are you now?
I'm 24. Yeah.
And you have two grandmothers.
That's right.
Yep. And you're getting a little old by Indian standards.
That's right, yeah.
So are you feeling a little bit of pressure? Time to settle down?
Here and there, when I go for events at home, community events, some of the older aunts will ask me, when are you thinking of settling down? And, you know, are you looking for a boy now?
Mm-hmm.
So that's
Do they ever take out their phones and show you pictures of nice Indian boys that?
Not yet, but they have told me about people.
Mhm.
They haven't like showed me pictures yet, but they've just said that they could, you know, hook me up if I wanted.
And which one of your grandmas is a little more liberal?
So my grandma in India is pretty chilled out. She's like, you know what?
Mhm.
Just be happy. As long as you find someone that makes you happy, I don't care where he's from, you know, what race, it's okay. Which was surprising to me because I did not expect that.
Mhm.
She's pretty chilled.
Mhm. So you have your hippie grandma in India,
Mhm.
and then your other grandma is a little more
A bit more
conservative.
conservative. I think she still wants me to be happy. She wouldn't disown me if if I didn't marry someone from the same village as I
Maybe
as I am.
just slap you a couple times.
Just a couple slaps and that would be cool.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
All right. To end the video, would you like to say something fun for us in Gujarati? Just whatever you'd like.
Should I say goodbye in Swahili?
Or Swahili.
I'll
Why,
just say
why not both? Do both.
Okay, I'll say goodbye in Gujarati and then goodbye in Swahili.
Okay.
So Gujarati we say aujo, which actually means like I'll see you later,
Mhm.
aujo. And Swahili it's kwaheri.
All right.
Kwaheri.
Kwaheri.